Welcome to the Content Magazine podcast. I'm Daniel Garcia, your host and the cultivator of Content Magazine published by SV Creates. Hello, welcome to the Content Podcast where we do conversations with local creatives. Today we have Avni Levy. How are you doing today, Avni?
Not bad. How are you, Daniel?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk to you because you've been involved in content for probably at least a year now, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think we're at a year.
Yeah, and pretty much the only time we have conversations is passing at the pickup parties.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so good. I'm glad to talk to you and find out more about you. It's kind of exciting. And thank you so much for being involved in the magazine. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, hey, it seems like from when you first started helping out the magazine to now, you've kind of, it seems that when you first started out, you were just a photographer, but now you're kind of doing more things from video, photography, quarantine streams, weekly newsletters, and a lot of fitness. Can you tell me kind of like what you've been up to this last couple years, I guess, and the transition of that?
Yeah. So my background is in multimedia and journalism, and so I've always had kind of a variety of skills. And I think this last year I really started to bring video to the forefront and more of that content creation and outreach and community building. So that was sort of what I was thinking about last year. So just to give you my intro, I run a video and photography business, and I also help business owners learn how to create their own content. And that's really because I believe in the power of great products and experiences to make a difference and the need for people to know about them. So that's kind of been the core focus.
Yeah, cool. So when you say help companies and people create content, what do you mean by that? Give me an example.
So I've been teaching small business owners how to create their own video in this boot camp that I started a few weeks ago. So that's one thing that I already had going on. And then the thing that you mentioned, quarantine streams. So 2 weeks ago, when everything was starting to happen and implode, I started to think about, okay, what are the opportunities? How can I still make myself useful? What are my skills, and how can I align them to this new climate? And so one of the first things that I started to notice was live streaming, right? So everybody's going live, and fitness coaches, they still need to provide an experience for their clients, and a lot of them are figuring out how to do it well online.
Yeah.
And so I figured, with my skill set, I have this multimedia experience, I know Zoom, I can create a training for those coaches to learn how to use Zoom to create this live online group exercise experience. So that was a training that I created around 2 weeks ago, and then I did the class last Friday, and this Monday it was a 2-part thing. I was able to help 3 business owners in this first round. And so I know one of your questions was, what did you learn about yourself in the last few weeks? And I feel like I've felt more entrepreneurial than ever in some ways
that's cool.
in the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So basically, like a new kind of climate or kind of market you've kind of had to adapt and create new ideas to make not just to make yourself relevant, to provide your skills and have a livelihood, right?
I think I haven't been trying, monetizing is important, but I don't think everybody needs to monetize. Like, if you want to do a free class, I think that's totally fine, and that's a way to market yourself too, right, for the future. And so I think for me, what I'm trying to do is start small with these trainings. So it's a sub $100 training, and then starting with just 3 people, right? And then in 2 weeks, I'm doing it again, and maybe it's 5 people. And so I'm still able to start small in that way.
Yeah.
And so that, I don't know, that was on my mind. I wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, that's totally cool. Yeah. So, what kind of then excites you? You said you feel more entrepreneurial. What kind of excites you as you even look to the future, starting these new kind of online trainings? What do you see kind of in the future for you that you'd like to build?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the next step for me, is figuring out where, this period of being in quarantine, it's not forever. It's like a temporary pause. Maybe it's a couple months. So how does this sort of Zoom training for fitness coaches apply to the bigger picture. And that's something I'm still figuring out. I mean, I know I like to do online trainings. I know I like to help people learn digital tools. And I'm learning a lot just by doing these, right? So I learned a lot in the Friday class and the Monday class for myself that, okay, I can adapt and do this better or do it in a different way or apply it to a different topic. So I think for me, it's training me too, right? As I train people, I'm training myself.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. What would you say as like this point in your life and career, what is one kind of like life lesson or wisdom or something that you've accumulated through your 20 plus years on Earth that you would want to share with somebody?
I think just going for it, just taking action sooner rather than later. And I think that's been highlighted in these last few weeks of I felt less afraid to just put things out there and not put too much pressure on myself for it to be perfect or put a price tag on it that's really high. I think my advice would be just take action and start small if you have to, but do something. I was in another conference call with some creatives that was mostly photographers and people in the video world, and it was kind of a despondent group. Like there were some people who said, I'm just going to wait this out. I'm just like watching Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like now is not the time to just be sitting around. Like this is the time to test, to take action. And in general, I think that's what people should do more of. Is just don't be afraid to go for it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's surprising on how much creating and making and doing gives joy in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind
Absolutely.
of like, just sitting around kind of causes that stagnant stuff. You know, to live is to make and create, I really think. So have you seen then, I mean, also then with as far as like photography and video in person, of course, all that has stopped, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. That was one of the first things that I had to like get my head around. I think all of us, right? It's like, okay, I can't do shoots anymore. So now what?
Yeah, totally. Then what would you say if you can you give a free little quick 30-second tidbit of like a good practice that people might want to use as they're thinking in terms of like Zooming conferences or whatever, like what's a practical tool, if you want to give it away. If not, everybody can sign up for your classes. But what would be like a real kind of like low-hanging fruit that, hey, everybody kind of needs to know this? Like, for instance, I'll tell you, like, the reason why I'm starting this podcast with just voice instead of doing video stuff is that I don't want to get a bunch of crappy light and horrible video quality and try to post that up. So I figure like, a phone call is like acceptable. And so I'll just do audio. So for like, what would be a way that people can improve their Zoom presence? And actually other things too, WebEx, GoToMeeting, there's a lot of different, Skype's still around, right?
Yeah. Skype's still around. They're possibly less reliable. But I won't get into all that. Yeah. So I think, a couple of things to your point of video quality. I think people are more forgiving when it comes to live streams and these video communication tools like Zoom or Skype or Google Hangouts. So I wouldn't be too afraid to use, that footage and post it online. Like people will kind of understand. I do think video has more setup involved than audio, just the podcast. Podcasts are easier to just get going.
Yeah.
But in terms of making your video look better, I mean, I always tell people, get in front of a window. If you have a window in your room, use the light from the window to light your face. We want to see your face. Like, prioritize us being able to see your face. If you're backlit, you got to make sure that light's not behind you. Bring it to the front.
Yeah.
And you can even use a little hack that I actually like to use. So I have an iMac. It's a pretty big screen. And so I'll open a blank Google document, and it's mostly white. And it's enough to actually illuminate my face. So
yeah, that's funny.
If I don't,
yeah, you think like a photographer. But that was funny because I was thinking about that too. And actually, at my little home office desk, I have our old flat screen TV. And the other day, I was thinking like I should take that and put a just a big white screen on it, so it's like this nice, beautiful light. But yeah, so that's
Yep.
good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good
Yeah.
too.
And then audio. So audio, you did a little test before we started recording. Definitely, I always say audio is actually more important than video because people will notice bad audio
Yeah,
before they notice bad video. So
yeah, totally. So then, let's get a little personal here. I actually don't, like I said, I've known you for a while, but like where were you raised and all that kind of stuff, and education and that kind of like bio stuff.
Sure. Well, I was actually born in Ohio, but I have no memory of it because my parents moved when I was only 6 months old. My dad was getting his master's in Ohio in engineering. They had immigrated from India, him and my mom, but he was here before. I don't know if you need all that detail, but they moved to the Bay Area. My dad got his first job in Menlo Park, and so we lived there in an apartment for a while. Again, I have no memory. Eventually moved to Santa Clara, North San Jose, technically. It was a townhome there, and that's where I remember my childhood. So I went to school in Santa Clara. It was called Washington Open. It was an interesting school because you call the teachers by their first name, and the parents were also required to volunteer in the classroom once a week.
Yeah.
And so it was it was like a family. I mean, and it was great for someone like me who already had these creative tendencies, and I felt like creativity was embraced in that school. So I have fond memories of that Santa Clara, North San Jose time.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I grew up kind of just around the Bay Area. Moved to East San Jose for a bit, and then Cupertino for high school. Then went to UCLA for undergrad, and then got my master's at Berkeley in journalism.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. So yeah, when would you say that you started to feel that kind of creative bug in you?
At a very young age. I mean, when I was 10, I had a play. I wrote and directed a whodunit play for my birthday party. So I got all my friends to be the characters in this play, and we got it all on tape. And it was I rewatched it a couple of years ago, and it was awful. But I guess I always wanted to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool. And then when did you really start launching into doing photography and video and those kind of things, content creation?
So I really didn't get into photography until after college. So I was a writer. My degree is in English from UCLA, and I was working for the school newspaper. And then right after that, I started working for this online newspaper. And so with every article, they needed a photo. And so that's how I discovered, really, in a big way, photography and portrait photography. I had dabbled a little bit in high school. I had a film camera, and I bought this book about photography, but I never really explored that until I was sort of forced to for the job. And I was like, I need to learn how to take better pictures because I'm putting all this time into the article.
Yeah.
The photography's got to look better. And so that was the first step into it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. What would you say, what is the key for a good story?
Make it personal.
Yeah.
That's when I do the brand videos for solopreneurs. We start with a 30-minute interview where I will ask them, kind of like what you're asking me, ask them about their childhood and what motivates them, why they're doing what they're doing, where does their passion stem from. And I think that kind of authenticity is what will connect your audience to you. So making it personal. Mm-hmm.
Have you heard that quote? I don't know who said it, but a great friend of mine said it, and it always stuck with me. It says, the more personal, the more universal. So I know somebody said that somewhere, that maybe it's like Mark Twain or Shakespeare, somebody somebody like that, or Socrates. You know what I mean? It's been around for a while, but yeah, that's kind of totally true. What's been kind of difficult for you in this shelter in place kind of scenario we're in?
Yeah. So I mean, as a business owner / creative, I feel like there's always upheaval there's always uncertainty, right? We're always not quite sure what the next thing is. And so I'm fairly comfortable with a certain level of not knowing.
Yeah.
I think when this sort of upheaval came about. I think the first thing was mentally, just coming to terms with the new constraint, right, of not being able to go out and do shoots, and then continuing to not get too much into my own head about stuff. So, like figuring out, I think, okay, the biggest challenge would be figuring out what are the parameters. Like, is something like product photography, does that still fall under minimum basic operations?
Right.
That's a question that's been on my mind, and that's something that I'm trying to hear what other people are saying in the industry. Like, what are the conversations on Facebook? And
yeah.
And then another question that's kind of come up is pretty specific, but it's something like a video PSA for healthcare essential. Is that an essential service? Because I actually have a client who we're talking about that. So there's some of that, right? Like figuring out what the parameters are, and then also navigating the government assistance and all the resources that are available to us potentially. So, things like unemployment is now open to self-employed people.
Right.
The loans, right, from the government, like what is forgivable in that and what's not. And I think all of this is unfolding. So that's been kind of the logistical stuff that has been challenging. And then, again, back to that mindset component. So not falling into the trap of the scarcity mindset. So people going out and buying toilet paper, right? I think what I've learned is that there's still opportunities. People are still doing business. People are still spending money. I know people who are creating online courses. People are still signing up for them. So it's not like everyone is suddenly not spending. So it's just been mentally to not think that way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Now, so I imagine, you're an entrepreneur, you have your business. I imagine you're running it out of your home. Do you have a home office? Is that kind of the scenario?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then in some ways, this isn't a change in the far as like your kind of necessarily like your work production space, right?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing is obviously not being able to go out to shoot on location. But it's, in terms of a lifestyle, it's actually funny because my husband and I were both pretty indoorsy, and it's like our parents will ask us, "Are you going out on walks?" And it's like, "No, not really. We're kind of happy inside." So
yeah, that's kind of funny. So then what's kind of like as being having a home office and stuff like that, it can be difficult sometimes to separate personal life from work life. So how do you kind of do that, and what is your kind of routine with that?
Well, I think now, so post-corona, so my husband's working from home. He's in biotech, so he's working kind of regular hours, 9 to 5, and so all of my work kind of has to happen between then too, I think. So we don't just, we're taking breaks kind of at the same time. We both kind of have lunch at 12 now, and then work out around 5 or 6, and dinner, and I think before that, in general, I have a morning routine that's kept me really grounded. It's based on the Miracle Morning routine that's described in the book by the same name. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I haven't. Who wrote that?
I don't know the author off the top of my head, but it's called Miracle Morning.
Okay.
And there's this acronym to describe all the steps. It's called SAVERS. So S is for silence, so meditation. A is for affirmations. V is for visualization. E is for exercise. R is for reading. And the last S is for scribing, so journaling or writing something. And so I pretty much followed that for, I don't know, several weeks, several months at this point. It just feels like I've been doing it forever. It's a habit now.
Yeah, awesome.
And then that keeps me really grounded. I feel like I'm so glad that I started doing that before all of this happened, because I feel like I would be way more lost if I didn't have that set routine to go to.
Yeah.
And then
pre-corona, then you read the Miracle Morning, you started doing the Savers process.
Yep.
What was kind of like before you kind of dabbled in that? What was going on? Do you get up, you get breakfast, you sit at your computer, edit, and email clients?
Yeah, I think the first thing I do is check my email, like grab my phone, check email, check text, and check like social media, and just let all of that carry me away into whatever rabbit hole.
Right.
And eventually get to editing and the important stuff. But now that I don't let the external world affect me right away in the morning, I feel like I'm so much more productive.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, and then you were going to say, so then, because we kind of that was pre, and then you did mid, but it sounds like you were going to add something else, and I cut you off. Sorry about that,
Oh,
or maybe not.
oh yes. So I was just the other thing. So Miracle Morning was a book I read, and I also read Atomic Habits, and I learned somewhere. I think the other book I read was Success Principles, which was a few months ago, and that's a long book. But time chunking is one of the strategies that that book describes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I have this timer on my desk, and I will, if I really need to focus, I switch that on. And I also use like app blocking tools on my computer, so I
Oh,
can't go to Facebook or anything.
yeah, yeah,
And so time chunking the day. So this is, I'm going to spend 20 minutes or 45 minutes on this task and only this. And that's been grounding and helps with productivity too.
yeah, yeah. That's really cool. That's the thing. I mean, the difficult thing is there's so many different books, advice, podcasts, and I know, like, even for me, everybody said, like, do your most creative stuff in the morning. And so I had tried to do that. And actually, I found like I need to do the stuff that I hate and the admin type things earlier in the day, because later in the day, when I'm more kind of like tired, those creative things get me going, and I could totally get lost in them and then do them. You know what I mean? So it was kind of opposite. And people always say, like, do you only do your meetings in the afternoon, because that's, you need to have that creative time. And in the afternoon, I can't do meetings. I'm like useless. I mean, like I don't have any,
Yeah.
I don't have any kind of like creative visionary planning after 2 o'clock, right? But if I was to do
Right.
photos and edit, I get this incredible different kind of juice. So, you know what I mean? You have to kind of like figure out your own system. But I
Right.
definitely love the, time blocking. Is that what you time chunking, blocking? What was it?
Yeah. Either way, time chunking, I think, is what I read.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And I learned too, like as an entrepreneurish, I don't know, whatever, working at home and struggling at home, that I had to
Right.
make things appointments, right? That was the only way to really get done. Like, this is an
Yep.
appointment to read this book. This is an appointment to edit. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. One other cool thing that's kept me productive and grounded is having an accountability buddy. So every Monday morning, I have a 10-minute call with a fellow creative. She's a graphic designer, and we check in on what is the most important thing, or two. It's usually two or three ugly frogs is what we call them, and that's a Mark Twain quote. Is like eat the biggest frog or the ugliest frog first.
Yeah, awesome.
And so we have that 10-minute check-in to figure out, okay, what are we working on this week? And then by the end of the week, we do a text check-in like, hey, how's that thing going? And so that's been really helpful, especially now.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and then the last thing, just something like, what's music is shuffling through your Spotify these days?
Workout music.
Workout music. So what is that?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't actually know what workout music sounds like. So what is the workout music? Is it like stuff?
yeah, so it's bass heavy, it's hip hop usually, it's these Spotify playlists. I mean, I'll just put one on. So my gym's doing the live workouts, so I'll put that on in the background as they give their instruction. And it's one of the things that I miss about driving, because I'd always, play my music or listen to a podcast while I'm driving. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, but I'm still listening to podcasts. I think Planet Money is a good one to listen to right now if you're an entrepreneur or just interested in what's going on in a bigger picture way with the economy right now. So they're doing a podcast every day about the coronavirus economy, basically,
Wow.
what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting just to see what's going to happen in for the rest of this year. It's going to be very interesting. So, well, thank you very much for talking. I think, I really appreciate you have just your creativity, the way that you're focusing on your mind and even your spirit, your physical condition and everything like that. And thank you. I've been blessed being, able to know you, and I'm glad that we were able to talk a little bit more. Hopefully we could talk some more in the future, get coffee even in person when that happens again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for being a part of the magazine. I really appreciate it. And I think it's kind of fun. I wanted to do these kind of podcasts have kind of like a mix between people who are behind the scenes helping make the magazine, and then people that are kind of like doing some interesting things in this time. So thank you it's great. You know what I mean? Like, your photos have been in the magazine, but then nobody knows who is this person, right? So I'm glad to be able to feature. So last thing, give me a plug on some of the stuff that you would want people to experience that you're doing.
Sure. So on April 14th, that's the next round of Quarantine Stream. So if you are a fitness coach or know a fitness coach who is struggling with doing live online workouts, I'll be doing a 3-hour training April 14th. So I have signups for that. That's the most urgent thing that's coming up.
Yeah.
But in terms of, my kind of regular video photography business, now is a good time to strategize your marketing. So if you want to brainstorm marketing ideas or ways we can get creative, we can talk about product photography. It's still kind of a gray area, but it's possibly that's something we could do. So strategizing your marketing and following me on my website is avnicreate.com, and my Instagram is also Avni Create, AVNI Create.
Well, thank you very much, and good luck with everything that's going on during this time. And I will see you once the shelter has lifted.
All right. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Daniel. Thanks for doing these. I think it's really important.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
In addition to publishing Content Magazine, SV Creates provides resources and training for the arts community. Each week we'll be checking in with Alyssa to see what's going on with SV Creates. Hey, Alyssa, how you doing?
Hi, Daniel. I'm great. Hi, everyone. This is Alyssa. I'm the program manager with SV Creates. On April 22nd, we're looking forward to offering a short webinar on crisis communications with Matt Lerman from Social Prosperity Partners. We're collaborating with Californians for the Arts and Theater Bay Area to bring you this free webinar. Check out our website and social media for links to register.
Cool. Thanks, Alyssa.
You're welcome. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, bye. Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast. Please follow us on social media at Content Mag and subscribe by going to our website, content-magazine.com. This episode's music is Muddy Water from Sakura's 2020 release, Coming Home Soon. You can find Sakura on Spotify.